Is there anybody there?
All right. Well, I want to welcome you guys into yet another episode of the Dad Hat Chronicles. And with me today, I have Mr. Paul Caputo. How you doing today, my man?
Ed, I am so very thrilled to meet you, to be talking to you with our actual human voices instead of reading each other on Twitter. And I've really been enjoying following your Twitter account and your video updates with your hats and just everything, the positivity and the fun that you bring to an outlet that can be pretty
Pretty
unpositive,
dark.
pretty negative sometimes. So you're a joy to follow on Twitter, and I'm really thrilled to be talking to you right now.
I greatly appreciate it. I've actually been a fan for a while, so this is a good chance for us to get to know each other, and to share with only a few friends, right?
I love it. I love the opportunity to have the conversation.
There you go. All right, so let's go back to your childhood. What was that moment that got you started as, and that's when you became a fan? What was that moment?
Well, it's interesting because people will talk about their first Major League Baseball game, and I actually can't remember my first Major League Baseball game. I was well into Phillies fandom by the time I started formulating memories, I guess. And so, I remember I was 7 years old in 1980 when the Phillies won the World Series, and I remember that was a huge deal to me, and I remember being very upset that I was not allowed to stay up and watch the end of the World Series of Game 6 with Tug McGraw striking out Willie Wilson for the Phillies' first World Series. So, it's been part of my family. It's I've got an older brother. My dad was a big sports fan. Both of my grandfathers were sports fans. My grandfather on my father's side actually played semi-pro ball, and he had this awesome Philadelphia Athletics, with the elephant logo on the chest. He had this awesome jersey, and
oh, no way.
Yeah, so it's baseball has been just part of my family, right?
At this point it's part of your DNA.
Absolutely. That and college basketball. My dad taught at Villanova. And I was 12 when Villanova won the championship in 1985, beat Patrick Ewing's Georgetown team. And,
Georgetown, and that was a powerhouse.
That was a powerhouse. Everyone thought they were going to go back to back, and I remember that clearly, right? I remember Ed Pinckney and Dwayne McClain and Gary McClain and Hal Jensen. I really remember that team well. So, so sports were just sort of part of my life. I played Little League, and I remember actually that my parents lied about my birthday by a month to get me into Little League a year early, because I was just absolutely champing at the bit to get in and play baseball, and so I was always the littlest person on my Little League team because they thought I was a year older than I was, and so
that's pretty cool. Kudos to your parents for doing that, because obviously they knew. They was no, if we don't do this, he's gonna just annoy us, and he needs to play.
Absolutely, yeah. They wanted me out of the house. They wanted me running around playing baseball, and I just, I was going crazy watching my brother play, and so I just wanted to be a part of it, and so yeah, it's always been there. And we would go outside in our neighborhood and we'd play wiffle ball in the street until it was too dark to see the thing, and it's just always been a part of my life.
I remember that, going outside, and then that, it's all right, when the lights come on in the street lights, that's when you need to come back home.
Right, yeah, because it was too dark to see, and then and then we'd play flashlight tag until we got called inside, and then and then the next morning we'd start it all over again. Now, part of the thing was growing up in the Philadelphia area, right? It was too hot to be outside in the middle of the day, right? It's humidity. 95 degrees and it's 100% humidity. But by the time like evening comes, it's okay, I'm going to be out here. We're going to play wiffle ball and we're going to play flashlight tag. And Ghost in the Graveyard was another one that we played. So
listen, I wish kids would do that more often.
Oh yeah, for sure,
right?
For sure.
We don't get to see that anymore.
Yeah, I have two kids. I've got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and all of the outside play is very structured and scheduled, and it's and I'm sure that when we were little, if we had all of the devices and the sort of stimulus that are available now, like we'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm certain I would have been inside on my iPhone all morning.
And listen, I have a 3-year-old, and it's the same thing. I was like, Daddy, can I use the iPad now? I haven't checked on her virtual pets. I'm like, no, kid, let's go ride your bike.
Right, exactly.
Like, you've had enough. No,
right,
you're not.
For sure.
You're right, though, because like, I mean, it's just that's how we grew up. But you're right. If we were to have it, that probably would have been us too.
Right. And I was playing. I played the Atari, the Atari 2600 that I had, and then a Commodore 64. So I had my fair share of screen time when I was a kid too. But it was always the social aspect of just going outside in the neighborhood. And then once fall hit, you started playing Nerf football, and basically all of my major childhood injuries were from playing sports.
Oh yeah, turkey balls. I think my knees have never recovered from playing, in the snow and getting hit, with no padding.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember catching a football pass once, and it got my pinky finger just wrong, and my pinky finger turned sideways, and I was just like, I think it's broken. It's like
I don't think this is supposed to be this way.
Yeah, this isn't how this thing goes.
Yep, I've broken many bones in my youth.
Yeah, for sure.
And now you feel all those aches and pains as an adult, isn't it?
That is true. Yeah, and that is I just had a birthday, just turned 48 years old, so it's like I don't feel like a 48-year-old at heart, but
right.
I'll tell you, you go out for that morning run and you feel every one of those years.
Well, actually, in a couple of next month, I'll be turning 40.
Okay.
So I'm with you on the aches and pain. I wake up and it takes me a good 5 minutes just to get out of bed.
Yeah. I do the thing where I make the standing up sound when I stand up, so it's
stretching and everything before you
Yeah,
I'm there with you. So let's talk collection, because I see right now in the background right now, for all those that are listening to the podcast, there's a lot of ice cream, cones, ice cream caps here, baseball helmets. What was your very first one?
It was the maroon Phillies with the old school, the Steve Carlton P, right? And I couldn't tell you how old I was when I got it, or I couldn't tell you really anything about it except for I know that it came from Veterans Stadium. And I know that it was, in the 70s that I got it. So it was...
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it just sort of like hung around on a shelf for a really long time, right? Like it was not a thing where I ever thought... Well, for one thing, Veterans Stadium was the only stadium I had been to, with the exception maybe of the Camden River Sharks. Like I didn't go to a lot of minor league baseball growing up or anything like that. So I had been to Veterans Stadium, and then one time... to Olympic Stadium in Montreal, but like it wasn't like I went to a lot of places where I could grow this collection, right? Like
right.
So I had one Phillies helmet. I'm sure, and I hate to think about this now, but I'm sure that we threw away more of those awesome old maroon Phillies helmets than I could imagine. And then I guess the way you could have grown the collection is they served them. Everyone knows this already, but like Dairy Queen, Baskin Robbins, you could get Major League Baseball helmets. But I always felt like, it's funny, right? Like I always felt like I was cheating on the Phillies if I went and I got a helmet that wasn't the Phillies, right? Like I wasn't going to be like, give me one of the Mariners ones, like, right? Like it's just,
I want another Phillies one.
Right. With all due respect to Eric Mertens and his Mariners, I was not going to go to Baskin Robbins in Wayne, Pennsylvania and ask for a Mariners helmet.
No, sorry, Eric. That's just not going to happen. Or even here, me in Cleveland, I was just not going to do it. I still remember the 90s and Seattle being a good team against the Indians. I remember those years.
It's it's fun. It's like those memories are just so like real, right? Like I remember there was a Baskin Robbins within walking distance of my house, and we would go get helmet Sundays, and so it's
with sprinkles, of course, right?
Jimmy's with Jimmy's, yes.
It's funny how so many people call it so many different things, right?
Yeah,
Jimmy's
yeah,
or sprinkles,
yeah.
whatever. As long as they're on the ice cream, guys.
Exactly. They're delicious and they're crunchy. Absolutely.
So as a kid, obviously you've lost a lot of them because
Yeah.
obviously that's not when you really started the collection.
Right.
When was it that you really decided that, all right, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to start collecting ice
I
cream helmets?
actually remember the moment distinctly. Like it was like a switch flipping because I was traveling for work probably, man, it might have been like 10 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Traveling for work. I had never been to Wrigley Field. And as I always do, I always get to the stadium as early as possible.
Mhm.
Traveling for work by myself, I got to the stadium and they're selling not just the Cubs helmet Sunday, but they're selling the 100 years of Wrigley Field
No way.
on the helmet Sunday, right? And I remember like getting it and like having this moment of, God, I could see collecting these things. That's pretty cool, right? Like, I love baseball. I love logos. I'm just such a sucker for like plastic crap, right? Like, I mean, I've got a baseball road trip coming up here. I leave tomorrow actually for my annual Baseball Palooza road trip. And I know I'm going to come home with like an extra bag full of just like plastic
Oh,
cups and
it's a
pennants
must.
and helmet Sunday. Yeah, right. I'm just going to have all that stuff because I'm just a total sucker for it. But I remember being at Wrigley Field holding this 100 years of Wrigley Field helmet
Hmm.
and thinking, these would be cool to collect. And that was really like right around the same time I started getting into this. This was around the time the Baseball Palooza trip started. It's around the time I started writing about minor league baseball logos. So that sort of coincided with, realizing that there were a billion cool minor league baseball teams out there, and starting to travel with friends who like baseball as much as I do. So that it just took off, and then I started posting them on. I'd post a picture on Facebook, and I remember having a stack of like at one point like 12 or 14 of them, I guess, right?
Hmm.
And people on Facebook were like, "That's so many helmets," and people started mailing them to me. Like friends started sending them to me, and it was a crack up, right? Because like you'd go to the mailbox and there'd be like 3 envelopes or boxes with helmet Sundays. And then my sister's actually really to blame for a lot of this too, because when she saw that I was doing that one year, as it was approaching my birthday's in August,
Hmm.
and as it was approaching, my sister wrote to all of the minor league baseball teams in the Philadelphia area and said, "Hey, my brother collects these helmet Sundays, and it would really be great if I'd love it if I could get one of the helmets from your team." And so many of these minor league teams were just like, "Sure, what's your address?" and sent them to her. And I laugh about it because this was a while ago, and I laugh about the fact that like they probably didn't think when she said my brother collects these plastic toys that I was a
It was
40-year-old man, right? Like
it
I'm
was a
sure they
full
were
grown adult.
exactly. uh,
That's
so
hilarious.
yeah, it was it's funny. And then so I don't know if you know who John Hodgman is.
Hmm.
But he's the if you remember the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC commercials, he was the
Yes.
nerd PC, right? Like he was on
Yep.
the
Yeah.
Daily
Yeah. Yeah.
Show. And like if you saw him, you'd recognize him. But he does this podcast called Judge John Hodgman, and I remember writing to him about the fact that I had this collection of helmets,
Hmm.
and that there was a dispute over whether they belonged in the kitchen. And could I have these helmets in the kitchen, or did that sort of negate the effect of having a collection? And
Right.
he had this awesome line. So I was actually on the podcast to talk about this. He had this awesome line where he said the difference between a collector and a hoarder is a display case. And
You're
I was like,
right.
it's a brilliant line, right? Like it's so funny. And so that's what inspired when I moved into this house in December of 2019. I finished the basement that I'm sitting in now. And when I say I finished the basement, I mean I had the basement finished.
You paid
And
somebody to do it.
exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't look like this if I tried to do it. But I went to the guy who was finishing it, and I said, I'd love on the back wall to just have a shelf about 6 inches deep, the length of the wall. And he's like, okay. He's like, so what for? And I went upstairs and I got my one red Phillies helmet, and I was like,
Right.
well, I've got an armful of these, and I want to stack them on this shelf. And he's like, well, how many? And I was just like, At that point, I was just, it's probably like 250, right? So I was just like, maybe not quite 300. And he just sort of like, he sat there and he just sort of looked at me like he didn't know what to do with that information.
It's like, what
And he's
is
like,
going on?
yeah. And he's like, well, I'll work it into the bid for you. I'm like, whatever it costs, whatever it costs.
Just tell me, because it needs to go. Whatever you
Exactly.
it's going up. That's awesome, because I'm looking at it right now, and there are so many helmets, and you have them all stacked. Obviously you've taken some time to really, put them in its own category and things like that, right?
There's very definitely a system. Yeah. So the far end, that far corner behind me there, where there's a bat leaning up against the wall.
Yep, I see a bat leaning in the corner. Yep.
That bat is a broken bat that was used by one of the players at a Montana. I'm sorry, the Montana, the Missoula Paddleheads game that I went to with some of our mutual Twitter friends.
Wait, this is the trip that you recently went to, right?
Just recently, yeah, the road trip up to Montana. So so Eric Mertens, who was a guest, and I think the Baseball Mapper guys are going to be on at some point. So
yep.
Those guys were all at this game. And, Eric, of course, knows everybody. And so he's like, he's talking to the trainer. And the trainer just started, every time a bat was broken, the trainer would go get it and, like, bring us broken bats. So that's the awesome bat that's down there. But it basically, I just have it arranged by American League, National League, AAA, AA, High A, Low A, Independent Professional. And then right behind me here is the collegiate summer level. So
nice.
So there's 6 or 7 different groupings there,
and it's a lot of helmets, guys. I'm telling you right now, this is amazing.
It's a lot. I actually figured, and because I know you asked Eric how many hats he had, so I figured you were going to ask me the exact number. So I can tell you the ice cream helmet size, not counting the nacho sizes or the other ones, because those are less important to me. There are 337 of them.
You're almost at a year.
Right, almost.
You're almost
one
there.
a day for a year, absolutely.
You're almost there.
And the interesting thing is, I know that I'm not that I don't have the most helmets. I know that some of the guys who I trade with, I know they have more helmets than I do, and it's it's fun because it's actually a pretty supportive community where it's not like this who has the most, or you're trying to outdo the other person. It's more just like on this road trip that I'm taking, we're going to the Wichita Wind Surge,
nice,
the Oklahoma City Dodgers, the Northwest Arkansas Naturals, and the Kansas City Monarchs.
Nice.
And so I've told them, I was just like, listen, I'm going to grab as many of these as I can, and I'll be available for trade for whoever needs them. And these guys all do that, right? They go to these games and they
grab as many as they can.
Yeah, because they want the doubles for trading. And the other thing that I've been really amazed about with the collection is the number of people who I have literally never met and hardly even interacted with on Twitter. Some I've interacted with more, but people who message me out of the blue, who I'm not even necessarily following sometimes. They have to send the little message request.
Right.
And they're like, hey, can I have your address so I can send you, a helmet from the Wichita Wranglers or whatever, right? And it's just it's amazing to me, this level of kindness that exists out there from people who see that you're interested in a thing and they want to contribute to it. And it's just
there's hope in the world still. There's still hope.
The two things that give me hope in the world, right? The kindness of strangers on Twitter sometimes, and the ability of people on Southwest Airlines to board a plane having to negotiate with each other who has which number at the boarding. The fact that people can figure out boarding a Southwest airplane, to me, just totally gives me hope for our ability to get along.
We're almost there, guys. We're almost there.
Right? We're so close.
Now, you recently just posted, I think it's one of the helmets was the wing nuts, right?
So there was someone who was asking about the wing nuts. There was I feel bad about this, but someone posted that they, here's my wish list of 15 helmets that I'd like to have. That's right. And so I just retweeted it and I was like, hey, who could help? I have a wing nuts, and I actually had a couple at one point, but I traded the extras.
Of course, yeah.
But that was just because I went to a game there. I took a road trip with a buddy, and I went to a Wichita wing nuts game, and thankfully they had helmet Sundays, and so I think I bought one, and my buddy had one, and he gave it to me, and so it's I had a couple of them, and now the wing nuts are long gone, and the Wind Surge are there instead, and they've got a new stadium, and So that one is very much a collector's item for sure.
That yeah, a lot of people are still looking for those
Yeah,
unique ones.
yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
now you said that you have your travel that you do. Now, is this with friends?
It is.
How did it all started?
So, I can tell you in 2014, my buddy Jeremy, who lives in Southern California, he was the only person who I could think of who could A, tolerate 4 days in a car with me, and B, would be interested in driving around for 4 days and seeing just minor league baseball. And so our friends sort of laughed at us at the time, right? Like they were like, you're gonna fly to Los Angeles and then drive east. You're gonna fly to Los Angeles and drive away from the ocean. And we went to the Lake Elsinore Storm, the Bakersfield Blaze, rest in peace, Blaze,
Mm-hmm.
and the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, and the Inland Empire 66ers. And
Nice.
it was the best time, right? Like we had so much fun driving around his little Prius. And we just thought like, hey, every once in a while we should do something like this. We just, catch up with each other, and so all of our friends who were sort of making fun of us then started seeing the pictures that we were posting, and just seeing how much fun it was. And they were like, well, hey, we want in on that. And so literally the next year we ended up in the New England area. We saw the Vermont Lake Monsters, where I got one of my Lake Monsters helmets. Let's see, we actually started with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, then the Vermont Lake Monsters, and then the Portland Sea Dogs, and then the Lowell Spinners. And so the cool thing about that one was it was 4 games in 4 different states in 4 days.
And they're all right there next to each other.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We didn't drive more than a couple hours any day, so. But we had 10 guys on that trip, right?
Oh
So
wow.
from 2014 to 2015, it grew by by 500% basically.
Right, you went from 2 to 10.
Right. And so it's basically been around that number. There's been some guys who, every once in a while aren't able to make it. We did have a couple of guys this year who are not going to be on the trip because of COVID.
Mhm.
They have unvaccinated kids at home, and so they didn't want to travel and risk bringing the Delta variant home. So, absolutely respect that decision. The
Mhm.
rest of us are fully vaccinated and masked up and all that. So we're gonna, we're
You
we're
gotta you
willing to
gotta
take.
live life a little bit, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, so we're doing that, but we understand not wanting to bring it home to the kids. Traveling around in a part of the country that maybe is not as vaccinated as some of the others, and so
Right, exactly. Yeah.
so so this year we have 7. But it's been just like I make up T-shirts every year. I design a T-shirt for the group every year, and I put everyone's name on it and all the team logos. Here's something I've discovered about T Public, by the way, which. Saturday is when my Dad Hat Chronicles T-shirt is due to land
Yes.
here, so
Whoop
I'm
whoop.
looking forward to that. I'm sorry I won't have it in time for the road trip,
No big deal.
uh, but on I get them made up on T Public, and one of the interesting things I've discovered is that they don't care if you put minor league or major league baseball team logos on a T-shirt.
Really?
I've done it every year. I put all 4 team logos from our road trip on the T-shirt, and they just print it up and send it to me.
Okay, have
So,
fun. Good luck.
yeah, trademark, schmademark, right?
Wow. He's one of those.
Yes, yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's
I've
pretty
actually
cool.
done that with T-shirts from teams where like I really wanted a shirt from a team and I just like literally could not find it. Like I'm not trying to subvert anything
Hmm.
or cheat anyone out of the money they deserve, but like I really wanted a Laredo Lemurs T-shirt, right? And I really wanted a Brevard County Manatees T-shirt.
I missed that team.
Ah, I know. I loved that logo. And the Fire Frogs, that was a cool logo. Like I
It
enjoyed
was.
that. But yeah, I definitely there's some minor league teams out there that I, really really enjoyed their logos. And, in general I like manatees as animals too. So like I really liked that logo. And the Laredo Lemurs had this like really wackadoodle story about how they got their name. And so, it's I really enjoy, obviously, as you know, enjoy
There might
everything
be a
about where
website
they
and a book or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So now are you going to be going to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum?
Definitely, yeah. So this will be the third time
Nice.
that I've been there. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to introducing the group. There is someone you've probably seen on Twitter. I've never met her in person, but she's the digital marketing strategist for the Negro Leagues Museum, and her name is Kiana Sinks. And she's just a superstar, right? Like, so I was following her on Twitter, and I was, because, the museum said, hey, you should be following Kiana Sinks. And so I started following her, and I saw the work that she was doing. And my day job, I work for an association where we work with like museums and parks and nature centers and historical sites and that sort of thing. And we were doing an online conference about like how to get your message out digitally during COVID. And Kiana was just like such a superstar with getting the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in front of so many people and like just totally building that brand. I mean, Bob Kendrick, the president of the museum, is just like, he's a celebrity now, right? Like, he has just like exploded all over the world. And
I can sit for hours and listen to the man talk baseball.
So in 2019, let me see if I have this right. No. Yeah, in 2019, I spoke to him for the first time. I just like emailed. This is how quickly he has exploded on the world, right? I called the museum and I said, I write for sportslogos.net, and I would love to speak with someone about the logo that you all just unveiled or are planning to unveil for the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues. And so this was 2020 that they were, in 2019, they unveiled the logo that was then used throughout 2020. And I called the museum, and they're like, oh, yeah, our president is Bob Kendrick. Here's his cell phone number. And so, like, I called his cell phone number, and, like, he doesn't know who I am, and he answers. He's like, hello, Bob Kendrick. And so I'm like, this is insane. And I was like, I'd love to just, like, set up a time where I could, ask you about the museum and ask you about this logo, because I wanted to feature the logo on the website, sportslogos.net. And he's like, well, yeah, absolutely. How about now? And we talked for, like, 45 minutes about like the history of Negro Leagues baseball. And, I got this one-on-one lesson from Bob Kendrick about like how, the integration of Major League Baseball like was necessary, but it ended up killing these black-owned businesses that were really important in black communities, and how successful the Negro Leagues were in a lot of different ways, and how, we had to integrate. There was no way we weren't going to integrate. But if you look at the story the museum tells, it's not the story of everything was terrible and then we integrated and it was better. It was more, it's more the story, like the integration is sort of an addendum to this amazing story about how these leagues survived under these incredibly difficult circumstances.
And successful at it too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they thrived. I mean, some of them were just like really amazing. So I've been my interest was just totally piqued, and so I've been reading like a ton about it. And when we started planning this year's Baseball Palooza trip, I was just like, we got to go through Kansas City, and we got to build the museum into the program. And so I'm going to meet Kiana in person for the first time, and I'm really hoping that Bob's there to meet the group. But it's funny now because about a year later, my fiance and I went there just as sort of like a day trip or a weekend trip to Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And we asked Bob Kendrick if we could talk to him for a minute about, just to interview him on camera for a presentation we were doing at our conference. So he's like, yeah, sure. Let me know when you're going to be here. And so I was like, oh, it's going to be a Saturday in October in 2019. And he's like, great. I'll be there when you guys are there. What I didn't know at the time was that he was on his way to go golfing. He's a huge golfer, apparently. So he was on his way to go golfing, wasn't even at the museum, like drove into the museum to talk to us for like a half hour on camera for this this presentation that we did to like 50 people maybe. And then like took off. He was like, great to meet you guys. Thanks so much. And then took off. And so, and then the following year, he's like, he's all over TV. He's on ESPN. He's on Monday Night Baseball. It's just like he's everywhere. And so
he has his own podcast now.
He has his own podcast, which is amazing. I love the podcast.
Great podcast.
So much fun. So, well, and you turned me on to the Brockmire podcast, which I have really very much been enjoying as well.
It's a different kind of podcast. And
it is.
It's a good fun too.
Yeah, for sure. But the funny thing to tie this back to the Helmet Sundays, I wrote to Kiana and I was just like, hey, what would be great is if the Negro Leagues Museum had that awesome logo on ice cream helmets. And she's like, I'm talking to Bob about it and we're going to make it happen. And I'm like, oh my God, how amazing would this be?
Yes.
So, so anyway, all of this, I guess, is sort of just part of this fact of like people in the baseball community, I have found, have just been so open and accessible and welcoming and just generous with their time and writing about minor league baseball logos, like calling up a team and just saying, hey, could I talk to someone about, where the team name came from, or, and some thoughts about, specifics of the logos, talking to front office personnel who will just go on and on and on and on. And also the designers. Jason Klein from Brandiose,
Yeah.
super, super nice guy. He'll just spend all sorts of time on the phone. One of my two other people who I really like talking to, Dan Simon, who, he's
Oh yeah.
responsible for the Savannah Bananas and the Cedar Rapids Kernels and the Hillsboro Hops. I mean, he's done some great logos. And then Todd Radom, who is, he's a regular on Buster Olney's podcast, and he's designed all-star logos, and he's, done all this like super high-end work. He and I spent an hour talking about the Wichita Wind Surge. We spent an hour talking about the Brooklyn Cyclones, which is one of my favorite logos. And so
Very old school, very cool though at the same
super,
time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and all these guys have sort of different specialties, right? Like what they, depending on what sort of look or feel you're looking for, you call different guys. And so it's been really, getting into minor league baseball and through all these different levels. Like I just, keep running into kind people, and it's like, wow, it's like, there is hope for the world.
Right, because and it's the same thing for me. When I just started this podcast, I was like, hey, listen, I'm looking for people to come out, and then the positive, and people coming to me and say, hey, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. I was like, and it's been great.
Yeah,
I with other sports, I don't think I would, get this kind of support from other, people. But with minor league, there's just something about it that everybody just loves. And it's
yeah,
not just that you only support one team, you support,
right,
all of them.
right,
Right.
right. Yeah, if you're a fan of a Major League Baseball team, you're not going to have 40 plus hats like I have. You're not going to. What was your? I know you said your number on one of your previous podcasts.
Right now, I just got 128 now because I just got a new hat the other day. So yeah, 128.
Okay,
Right
128's the number. Okay, well that is I really loved what you did, during the pandemic, and not to say that it's not still going, but
now. Right.
at the height of the pandemic, when the minor league baseball season was canceled, and you said, okay, here's how I'm going to support small business. And I have to tell you, I have stolen that line, right? Like I have stolen the line, like I'm buying a T-shirt, or I'm buying, something from this store, and it's like minor league baseball. It's the soul of the community in so many cases, and it
Right.
is it's a small business. It supports so many different people.
And I, it's funny because I started with the affiliated, right? And
Yeah,
then that was the floodgates open, and then you have your independent leagues, your collegiate wood bat
yep,
leagues, and then
yep.
that's how it all, like, I mean, I have from every single league, I have at least one hat from every league. So
Oh, all right.
I don't have the Pecos League though, so I
I
need
was
to
just
get.
going to ask you, which one do you have from the Pecos League?
I don't have one yet. I'm working on it. Some of
All
them,
right.
it's hard because, as you know, I collect just the regular
Yeah,
dad
yeah,
hats.
yeah.
If you wanted to get like a fitted hat, those are a lot easier to get, a
Right.
lot more money.
Right.
But dad hats is a little bit more difficult to
Yeah.
get with certain leagues. So
Well, I have to tell you though, like if your Facebook page, or I'm sorry, if your Twitter account had been called the Flat Brim Chronicles, I don't think I'd have been following you, right? Like it was that connection to the dad hats that
right.
that first intrigued me, right? So I'm
It's
glad it was. I'm glad we share an affiliation for style of hat, because it led me to discover your Twitter account.
There it is, and I'm glad you follow, because I mean, I've been following your book. I have the digital book and I
Okay.
have the regular book.
Oh, you have them
'Cause-
both?
Right, because the reason why I downloaded the digital was because you said there were extra teams
Yeah.
on the digital version. So I'm like, okay, here we go. Amazon, here I come. And I
Yeah,
did, and that's what I did.
I wanted to put more of them in the printed book, but it just would have been so expensive, because it's like,
Mhm.
you can't do a black and white book about logos, right? So it's all color, and so
Right.
so I sort of had to pick 100 articles to include and it seemed like a nice round number, and it brought the price somewhat reasonable. It's still more expensive than I want it to be, but that's, old man Amazon is setting that.
Right.
So, but I was glad to be able to, to have the Kindle version so that I could include, the articles that didn't fit in the printed book.
And which is awesome. And for those of you that don't know, it's the book is called The Story Behind the Nickname. So go on, it's on Amazon, and on Kindle. So it's great because
thank you, Ed. I appreciate that.
Right, because it's fun. I use it when I'm talking about a lot of the hats. Sometimes when I'm making my videos, is I reach out for that book to look, because it's just not just affiliated. You have all sorts of teams in there, and I Google it, and then I go on sportslogo.net and look some information on it and just give it out there, because that way people know about the teams. It's
well,
not a small way of doing it.
You've always been very kind about crediting that information too, because not everyone does, right? Like, I mean, sometimes you find information and just sort of treat it as your own. But
yeah, no, I
you mentioned. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Say it again.
No, I can't do that. I got to give credit where credit is due. So
right. But you've mentioned a couple of times the independent teams with these great identities, and it's been really, I've really enjoyed how the independent teams have discovered the power of that level of marketing and really embracing this idea that the team name should be hyper local and hyper meaningful, and right. It's not just wacky. Like, so many people outside of the minor league baseball community just feel like these names are just pulled out of a hat, or they're just wacky for wacky's sake. But if you dig into any of these names, I mean, I never would have written the book. I never would have written about the origin of minor league baseball logos if it was just like, we thought Yard Goats was funny, so we called our team that, right? Like, if there weren't like this full awesome story behind it,
right? Exactly.
It wouldn't be nearly as much fun and nearly as meaningful.
And I think that's why I gravitate towards the minor leagues, just because of the uniqueness. Yep. And the logos are just, well, they're fun. It's as simple as that. Like the Noodlers, right? They just recently came out with that one. Right. How awesome is that one?
That was funny. That was a very funny one with the catfish with the human feet sticking out of its mouth. Yeah, that's funny. And they've, they got me, right? Like, they absolutely got me with realizing that if we produce multiple identities, people are going to buy these hats. I can't tell you how many different things I have from the Albuquerque Isotopes, right? And like, if you don't know that they're also the mariachis and also the green chili cheeseburgers, right? You would never know that those hats had anything to do with each other. But they totally got me, because I'm like, okay, great. So now there's 120 affiliated minor league baseball teams, and they all have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 identities. Yeah. And then you have all these independent teams who are doing the same thing, right? Like, and even the teams that were affiliated and are now independent still have their Copa identities. And when I was in Idaho Falls, they didn't have any Chuckers dad hats, but they did have the Madres dad hats.
Which I bought one, yeah.
You saw, and then got the pink one, which that was awesome. I love that you did that. I got the lime green one because I was still on my lime green kick.
I'm still on it, though. Don't you worry. I'm on
I
the
hope
kick
that Daytona Tortugas are listening. I really want the lime green dad hat.
So do I. So I'm waiting. I so often I go on their website just to make sure nothing new. Okay, all right. We'll keep moving.
The Great Falls Voyagers. You have the gray Great Falls Voyagers hat with the little alien logo on it, right?
Correct. Yes.
So I kept saying, I'm like, man, I'm going to get that hat. Like, I couldn't wait to like get to Great Falls and buy that hat. And like, it was the one time maybe ever in my life I didn't wear a baseball cap into the stadium, because I was like, I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm going straight to the store getting that. And I get in there, and like, the hat collection's completely picked over. They don't have the hat at all.
No way.
And then they're like, oh, but it's on our website. It's just on back order. So just check our website and order it. And so I've been checking their website, and it's not on back order anymore. It's not even on their website to order.
It's funny. It happened to me with the Woodchucks of the Northwoods League.
Yeah.
I ordered their dad hat. Well, actually, I think it was their franchise hat, the W, and then 3 or 4 days later, they said, sorry.
Oh,
so I'm brutal. Because I was been waiting for it, and it's
gone. Right. And now it's the white whale, right? Like, it's the one thing that you can never have. And so, yeah, for me, it's the Great Falls Voyagers right now. It's that gray sucks. One with the little, I forget what the name of their little alien guy is, but like, I've always loved that logo. And so there is a place there's a sporting goods store in Great Falls called Shields, and I don't
Shields?
know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a chain, but I think it's sort
Mhm.
of local to the like upper Midwest. We don't have it here in Colorado. Um, but I called them once, and I was just like, I'm looking for this hat, and they're like, oh yeah, we have that hat. And I was like, oh, how do I order it? And they're like, well, go to our website. And so I go to their website, and of course, it's not on there because it's so hyper local to
Of
that
course.
community. And so I call them back. I'm like, can I just give you a credit card and have you mail it to me? And they were like, oh, no, we'd have to go through like all these steps to make that happen. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just wait for it to come back on the team store. And now that I see it's not on the team store anymore, I'm thinking of calling Shields back. And I'm like, all right, we're going to go through all these steps now. You
I
said we
don't care.
could, so we're going to.
I'll sit here in full hour, and then we will go step by step.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's pretty cool. I will do the same thing. To be honest with you, I will sit here all day and wait for you to get me
Right.
my hat.
Right, right.
Uh,
By the way, it's probably informative that, like, in some of your previous episodes, you've talked about like meaningful relationships with fathers and like being
Yeah.
a dad and all that sort of. And you and I are sitting here talking about like I would be on hold for an hour to get that hat.
It's funny because my daughter will sit here, and when we
Right.
probably making a video, she'll sit here.
Yeah,
with
you'll
me
be there
doing
together.
it. Because that's how it is. Sorry,
Yeah,
honey,
it's
I
just,
love
it's
you.
just online content.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what it is. So, and she loves making them, so I'll keep making them until
It's
she
great.
says no.
You and your daughter are so adorable. It's so much fun to watch you guys. And I love when she makes cameos in your videos because
It's all her. She's the
it's
star.
adorable.
I'm just hitting the record button, and she just goes.
Well, it just makes you a good producer, right? Like
Right.
recognize talent and let it shine.
Go for it. Absolutely. If it gets me more likes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's not manipulative at all. It's
Oh,
just,
zero. Exactly. Hit the subscribe button, guys. All right. So, what's your list of hats that you're looking, besides that, that we're the one that we're both waiting for, the Daytona Tortugas? What other hats are you looking to get soon?
So we're talking about hats now, not helmet Sundays.
Not helmets, because
Okay.
I know you have like 1,000 helmets, and I know you probably have a long list of helmets.
Well, so I'll probably end up with at least a couple, on this trip that's coming up. I definitely want one of the Monarchs ones.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I don't know about the Oklahoma City Dodgers because I'm not a Dodgers fan, and this gets at my my philosophy that minor league teams should not have their parent club's nickname, even if
Preach.
they're owned by the parent club.
Preach.
Um, so definitely a Monarchs hat. I wrestled with that a little bit, right? Because I wasn't sure how I felt about an independent team taking on an identity of a Negro Leagues team.
Mhm.
And the fact that it had the blessing of Bob Kendrick and the museum, and that they've been directly involved with it, sort of, sets me at
Eased
ease
it.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely want to get that. And I'll tell you which one has been on my list ever since I saw it on your head is the Joliet Slammers.
Oh yeah.
That cap with JL Bird on it, I love it so much. It's such a great hat.
It's right there, right behind me too.
I see it. Yeah, that's a great one. So that's a really good one. And then the other one, I've been down there a couple of times. I have a T-shirt and I have a couple of ski caps, but I don't actually have the dad hat. And they have a great dad hat. Is the Rocky Mountain Vibes.
Oh yeah. They
So
do.
I want to pick that one up. So
That was a good one. I got it. It's in blue. I got it. I didn't get it through the website through their team website because they didn't have it then. So I got it through 47 brand.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's when I
I've done
wear
that a
it.
couple of times. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a terrific one. And then, one of the things that I noticed on the 47 website, and I think you and I even tweeted about this, was the fact that some of their hats seem to be sort of the same color, right? Like I realized I had a bunch of hats that were all sort of like the same shade of dark
Right.
blue. And so, it steered me back towards like trying to get the unique colored hats. And, I'll still, I still go to the 47 brand website, and for my birthday a year ago, not this year, I got a gift certificate there, and then they had buy one get one and free shipping over $75, and so I ended up with like 8 hats, and it was like,
Oh yeah. I've been there.
yeah, I'm sure you have. So those are the big ones, honestly. Like I was surprised at how much I liked the Joliet Slammers hat when I saw you order it, and I was just like, oh man, I'm super jealous of that one.
I was. It actually surprised me how much I actually like it, because
Yeah.
that one we talked about it. This one has the Velcro back,
Yeah.
strap,
Yeah.
and I listen. Anybody can wear it. That's perfect. And I think that's the only one I'll ever own that's a Velcro, because I'm not a fan of the Velcro hat.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Right,
No, that
but
totally makes sense.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
comfortable and it
Right.
fits perfect.
Well, that's, so now I'm even more jealous because, so I have to see, like, following you. Two things in my life are very dangerous for my wallet. One, following you on Twitter and seeing you with these hats, because I'm like, ah, crap, I want that hat too. Um, that, and honestly, like, writing about minor league baseball logos, I promise you, I have spent more money falling in love with logos than I have, made money from writing about them, right? Like, so
Yeah,
it's
I get it.
absolutely. You know, and as much as I love minor league baseball, and I do, and I'm going to absolutely keep collecting minor league baseball hats, I have this real like urge right now to do some international travel, and like, once when the world opens back up, I've got this this baseball trip, sort of as a pipe dream right now, but a baseball trip to Japan or Korea
Oh,
or both, right?
so yeah,
And
definitely.
I could totally see like just coming home with 1,000 hats and 1,000 t-shirts
And some
and
ice cream, helmets.
and the helmets, man, the stuff. I've seen some pictures on Twitter. Steve on the Move, I think, is on Twitter. He lived in Japan for years. He just moved back to the States, and he would always like tweet at me with these pictures of menus. Because a lot of times, I was in Japan just one time, and all the menus had pictures on them because there's so many tourists, and they want to,
Make it
know that
easy.
they're advertising. Yeah, make it easy for people to order. And so it was, he sent me a picture of the menu, and it was like all these different foods, but in helmets. So
That's great.
I'm totally coming home with 1,000 helmets after I go to Japan here. So,
Absolutely. I
but
would too.
I think it's a pennant with a hat on it behind you there that looks like it has the Puerto Rico logo on it.
That is
And
correct.
so,
Yes, sir. From the
uh,
World Baseball Classic
very cool, very cool. I
2013.
went
Yeah.
to, I've been to one game in San Juan. It was a Caribbean Series game
Oh,
between Venezuela and Puerto Rico, and it was just like, it was so much fun. They didn't have hardly really any like sort of souvenir style things.
yeah, it's hard to get a
Yeah,
lot of stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
trust me. And I've looked, because I want to get some from the because they have the AAA team and AAA league and Double A league, and
yeah,
it's so hard to get any kind of merchandise from
right,
them. It's
right,
super hard.
right. Yeah, so that's sort of it's sort of a disappointing thing, but I know that it exists in Japan. I know that they have it in Japan and Korea, and so when it's safe to travel again and the budget can withstand it, I think I'm going to take a couple of weeks, and I guarantee you some of the guys from the Baseball Palooza trip will make that trip with me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's a trip of a lifetime. I want to go
right.
there, and then I also want to go. It surprised me, but Australia, to see a couple of the
Yes.
Australian Baseball League.
Yeah. 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 And they have fun logos too, right? Like, and that's definitely, I mean, it's organized by Major League Baseball, and it's
Hmm.
definitely sort of a lower level than Japan and Korea. But still, like, I'll watch those games in the wee hours of the morning during the winter sometimes, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
it's like a little minor league stadium, and it probably has a couple hundred fans there, and but they've got these awesome logos like the Brisbane Bandits, right, and the Perth Heat.
I
And,
was just gonna say that one, the Perth Heat.
yeah,
That's one of my favorites.
yeah, the Canberra, is it the Canberra Cavalry?
Yep, the
Oh,
Calvary.
I think
It's
okay,
such a.
good.
They're all cool.
Yeah,
They're all cool
yeah,
logos, and I love
yeah.
it.
Oh,
So
and the Auckland Tuatara, they've got this like crazy lizard, and it's the only team in
yeah,
New Zealand, and yeah, so it's like, I mean, the Australia Baseball League looks like so much fun for sure.
and like you said though, it's not like the professional leagues, because it is put by Major League Baseball, but
Right.
it's still I consider it minor leagues. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
love
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
So you are definitely going to be doing your Travel Palooza, and
yeah,
obviously you're going to be collecting hats. You're going to be
yeah.
collecting helmets. Are you going to be doing any kind of recon for your next book?
Well, I've written about the wind surge, and
Mhm.
I've written about the Dodgers, and I've written about the Naturals. and then I covered the Monarchs when they unveiled their
When they
logo.
unveiled it, yeah.
Yeah, so there's actually these, unless they've got like alternate brands coming or anything like that.
Just probably not.
It's just probably just going to be pure entertainment. And I actually used to do that to these guys. Like I would set up like interviews with players and whatnot, and they would all have to like stick around for 45 minutes to an hour after the game while I went and did my thing. And so I was like, that's probably annoying. So I stopped doing that to those guys. But
stop, torturing them with that.
Exactly, yeah, because like they probably wanted to go back to the hotel or probably just wanted to get out of there, and I'm like, okay, wait here for 45 minutes while I go talk to Cody Ashley about the Fightin' Phil's logo.
That's awesome. I would have waited. I was like, how long
they all did. They gave me a hard time about it, but that's just because that's how this group is.
Oh, love it. So, what's next for you? So, I know I've been teasing you on the second book. You are considering probably eventually in the future making a second book.
I've been thinking about, well, certainly, I'm still collecting these articles as teams rebrand, and I write about their names, and eventually there's going to be enough of them, and that's how the first book sort of came about, right? Like was just there was finally enough articles. I wrote for 5 years, and then all of a sudden it was just like, oh hey, yeah, I could collect these all in a book. So I was thinking, the next one might be a little more organized, right? It might be about rather than just like a collection of essays about individual teams, it might be more about sort of like the strategy of marketing minor league baseball, and certainly using current teams as examples, but talking about like the Omaha Storm Chasers did that. They did a documentary basically about their name change.
I watched it as well.
Yeah, and so that was cool, right? Like to see that and to see like what goes into it. So, I don't know what kind of market there would be for a book about the strategy of branding in minor league baseball, but it's just like, every time you see like someone on Twitter who is from sort of outside, I always love this, like when someone from outside the minor league baseball community says, gosh, look at all the cool logos there are in minor league baseball, and then like everyone like descends on them, and it's like Montgomery Biscuits, and it's like, no, my team. And so, I'm hoping there's like a certain amount of enthusiasm out there for just this, this phenomenon, because honestly, this is my, I don't deal much in conspiracy theories, but my conspiracy theory about why Major League Baseball sort of exerted this hostile takeover of minor league baseball is that minor league baseball branding got too good, and the franchises got too valuable. And, the major league teams all felt like, oh, these minor league teams are just riding our coattails because they're all affiliated with major league teams. And so we want a piece of that pie, basically. And, and I really feel like, the branding of minor league baseball is such an interesting story, right? Like how it went from, you maybe had like 2 or 3 or 4 teams, you had like, you had the Toledo Mud Hens and the Durham Bulls and the Buffalo Bisons, who had sort of, recognizable, interesting names for
many years. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the Carolina Mudcats and the Montgomery Biscuits and the Lansing Lugnuts came along, and it was just like got a little sillier. And then, people realized like when the Carolina Mudcats were setting all sorts of records for sales before there was even the internet, right? Like they were advertising, they had like a full page black and white ad in the back of, like Baseball America or, some of the like the baseball magazines that existed at the time. And they kept selling out of hats. They couldn't keep their hats in stock because people were like, cutting this ad out and putting a check in the mail and sending it to the Carolina Mudcats in exchange for a hat that showed up 3 weeks later, right? And I'm like, they tapped into something early on, and the Lugnuts did it, and obviously the Bulls had the advantage of a major motion picture with Kevin Costner, and the Mud Hens had the fact that Max Klinger on MASH.
Oh, MASH, that's right.
That was his favorite team. I actually got to speak with Jamie Farr once for an article for Sports Logos about the Toledo Mud Hens. I got to interview him, and that was really fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
I
great.
haven't read it, but I have to go. I will look for it now because now I gotta find out for
It was
sure.
an early one. Yeah, it was a while ago. So it's
Oh, I went all the way back. I think the first one I saw was back in 2014, I want to say.
yeah, yeah. That was, I think, the Iron Pigs was the first one that I wrote.
There you
So
go.
as a Phillies fan, I had to
Yeah, you had to write about the
take
Phillies.
them on exactly.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot then.
Oh, I'm ready. Oh, you're gonna ask me my favorite.
Yeah, your favorite rebrand. What's your favorite of all the rebrands? Which one is the one that's like that's my favorite?
Of all the rebrands. Okay, so that's an interesting question. So I got to ask you, what constitutes a rebrand? Does it have to be, like relatively recent? Could it be, does it have to be the same franchise? Could it be one
No.
franchise moved out?
Oh, I mean, whatever. I mean, at this point, there's so many rebrands,
Yeah.
So for me, like for example, mine was the sock puppets.
Okay.
I
Okay.
gravitated because I think it's hilarious,
Yeah.
And I like that one a lot. So
Yes.
then you got the
Yeah.
Otterbots, which is one of my other favorites,
Yeah.
but there's so many of them. Like,
Yeah.
which one is
Okay.
the one that you're like,
Okay.
I like that one?
I get the question, and kudos, by the way. I've never been asked this question. I get what's your favorite logo all the time, but I've never been asked what's your favorite rebrand. So the Appalachian League, which you were just talking about, the sock puppets and the Otterbots, they were forced into rebranding all 10 of their teams.
Correct. Yeah.
And all 10 of their teams were violating this principle of, don't name your team after your parent club. I guess that was just the Appalachian League. That was their thing. And so I will admit that I will agree that the sock puppets and the Otterbots are like the class of the Appalachian League rebrands. Absolutely. The interesting sort of in that league was that the sock puppets saw it coming. They saw the writing on the wall and started on their rebrand earlier than all the other teams did, and because of that, they had a contract in place to work with Dan Simon on their rebrand, and the other 9 teams all worked directly with Major League Baseball because that's what Major League Baseball wanted them to do. And so you may notice that like a lot of the other brands, most of the brands in the Appalachian League are pretty good, but they're, I would say, more conservative, right?
Yeah,
Like
oh yeah.
the Doughboys and the River Turtles and the
I've noticed that. Yeah, you're right.
the State Liners. So a little more conservative, and I think that that's because Major League Baseball got involved.
Bad idea.
So, it's interesting. But they did, Major League Baseball was also involved with the Otterbots, and the Otterbots did a great job. So, and I think that really came from like the team was pushing it, right? Like the team was pushing for something creative and fun. I will say too, the River Turtles, I can't get past the fact that the turtle is sliding into home plate from the wrong direction.
Hey, I can't.
I don't know what to do with that.
It's just something that once you see it, you just can't unsee it. And like,
Yeah.
oh God,
For
I
sure.
can't.
For sure. Absolutely. So in terms of my favorites with the rebrands, though, I have to say that I really like, and I know people liked the Missoula Osprey. I know it's sort of a cool local name. That logo was super dated and really needed to be updated. And when they rebranded as the Paddleheads,
Love that logo.
I thought that was a great one. So
Yeah.
in terms of like recent rebrands, going from the sort of need for a new logo and an outdated brand to to just one that I think just did an amazing job was I love the definitely the Paddleheads.
I'm a fan of it just because it has sandals, who's
Nice.
wearing
Right,
sandals
right.
on there. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, and when I talk to them, first of all, like super nice guys too with the team, right? Like the team, like again, like you see a lot of that in minor league baseball, but yeah, they were super nice. And I have to say, like, any time a team rebrands from their parent club to a unique name, I'm going to be in favor of. So like we mentioned earlier the Connecticut Tigers rebranding as the Sea Unicorns, right? Like that's a totally fun one. Though I do kind of wish they had just gone with Narwhals, right? Like Norwich Narwhals would have been like
It would have been so much better. Yeah, I mean, listen, I love it. I still love it. I own their hat.
No, it's great.
Right? Narwhals would have been right.
Yeah.
Oh, so spot on.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then, gosh, I mean, some of the other ones, the Florence Freedom, the independent team, the Florence Freedom rebranded as the Florence Y'alls.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought that was a fun one. And then I don't know. There's so many good ones. I guess the Savannah Sand Gnats left and became the Columbia Fireflies, and then the Sand Gnats were replaced by the Savannah Bananas, and the Savannah Bananas was a great one.
And look how that's such a popular team. They're very unique, right? And I was just this weekend, they were on ESPN.
Yep.
You know, they did a piece on them, and I'm like, you know what? Push the minor leagues because you know,
why not? And they've done such a good job with, not just the branding, but also like the team itself, like just doing like really wacky, funny things like during the game, and these rules they've implemented where like if a fan catches a foul ball, it's an out, that sort of thing. Like, so I'm totally in favor of that one as well.
Yeah, and I like you were saying, they figured out. Not only did they figure out the whole logo, but they figured out marketing it. They figured out the uniqueness of what minor league baseball is.
Right. The fan experience. Because I've been to, and I won't name names because I don't want to be negative towards anyone
Any team,
out there, but I've been to games before where the brand, they had this highly polished, super fun brand, and then you go to the game, and then the fan experience doesn't quite match up, right? Like it's sort of a rundown stadium, or I mean that's usually it. Like it's a rundown stadium, and like the scoreboard doesn't work, and the stands are uncomfortable, and it's like, but yeah, we got these cool hats, and
great, but no fan experience is not that.
Yeah.
The fan experience is not great.
Yeah, if the experience at the ballpark doesn't match with this fun brand, then what have you accomplished?
Exactly, and I think it goes hand in hand. The brand plus the fan experience, it needs to be up to par. I completely agree with you there.
Yeah, and you see so many teams rebrand when they move stadiums, right? Like, and that's like the 51s rebranded as the Aviators when they changed stadiums. The Beloit Snappers intended to, and then couldn't get it done in time.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens there with them. I have a feeling that this is just a hunch. I don't know this to be true, but I have a feeling that Major League Baseball got involved when they were determining who got to keep their affiliation, and I think that Major League Baseball sort of said, like, hey, we know you're building a new stadium. We would also like you to not go with one of these 5 names that made the finalists. And so I think they started from scratch.
We got to redo everything again.
Yep, exactly. And another, by the way, another rebrand that I really have to say I liked was when the Helena Brewers moved to Colorado Springs, they became the Rocky Mountain Vibes.
That's right.
That was another major upgrade in the brand.
That is a cool one too.
Yeah.
I love that one. I have that hat as well. So
I know. I got to go down. It's only a couple hours away. I got to go down there and get one.
Eventually I'll make it up to watch a couple of the Pioneer League games because that's my goal.
Let me know when you do. I discovered how easy to drive it is for me to get there. So
and we'll do. All right. So we're gonna end this with my my very famous, not so famous questions here.
All right. By the way, like when you've been asking these questions on previous episodes, I've been answering along in my head. So.
That's amazing. I love it. All right. So the one that I'm going to ask everybody is, you go to the ballpark, what's your snack of choice?
Now, see, this one I've actually been like screaming at the podcast when I've been listening because everybody should be saying ice cream helmet sundae. The snack of choice is the ice cream helmet sundae.
I set you up. I'm sorry.
In the bottom of the 5th inning.
You go get yourself some ice cream. It does not matter if it's 20 below. You go get yourself some ice cream.
Nope. I had a helmet sundae at a Chicago White Sox game in 40 degrees.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Ice cream makes everything better.
Absolutely.
Especially if the team is losing.
Right. And it's scientifically proven that it tastes better out of an ice cream helmet.
I concur on that. All right. So you go to the ballpark or a picnic or barbecue. Burgers or hot dogs?
Burger.
I'm a hot dog guy because it's just easy. You walk.
It is pretty easy. It's pretty easy. My problem with the hot dog is I feel like I could eat like 7 of them.
That is true, though.
They're just going like
a
that,
whole bunch
right?
of them. You're right. You're right about that. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Can't go wrong again with any of them. They're so
Yeah.
delicious. I'm a waffle guy, but I'll eat pancakes all day long.
Yeah, but a waffle with ice cream on it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Chocolate ice cream and chocolate sauce.
Now we're talking.
And maybe rainbow jimmies.
Absolutely. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Yeah, same here. I gotta get up and go running.
Oh, man.
um,
I've been running. I figured it out. I've been running 13 of the last 15 days for some reason, and like, I don't know why I've done this to myself, but yeah. But
yeah,
it's like
afterwards, like why do I do this to myself?
Why do I do it? And if I do it this much, why am I not better at it? That's sort of the larger question for me.
I've been doing it for long enough to know that I'm not gonna get good.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
this
get
is just as fast as I am, and it's not as fast as I used to be, and and it hurts more now.
Oh yeah, and the next day you hurt even more, so you just gotta stretch even a little bit longer.
Exactly.
All right, so let's see, tacos or burritos?
Tacos. No, burritos.
Good answer.
Burritos.
Great answer.
Yes, with green pork chili.
Oh, so good. Oh, I love spicy food. Okay, let's see. Pepsi or Coke? Now, this is a very contested question here because a lot of people have a lot of answers to this. There's only Pepsi or Coke, guys.
Okay. So I will admit right up front that I don't have a strong opinion on it. If there's 2 in front of me, I'll probably choose Coke. But more important to me is if one of them is fountain and the other's out of a can, I'm going with the fountain soda every time.
Good answer. You're right about that. Fountain. There's something about fountain drink that just
exactly fountain drinks with pebble ice.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. Now we're talking. Okay. Book that you're reading right now.
I am reading. It's called Ed Bolden and Black Baseball in Philadelphia. Ooh. And it's sort of a comprehensive history of basically Negro Leagues baseball in Philadelphia, with using this one guy who was a major factor, not as a player but as an owner of several different teams, and he was involved in forming some leagues and serving on as leadership in some of these leagues, and was involved with some of the sort of the great players of Negro Leagues baseball. And so he was a black guy in Philadelphia in the 20s, 30s, 40s who just was a major influential figure who I had not heard of, and
major playing at ball games.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Love it. I gotta take a look at that one. I haven't read that one yet.
There was a team that actually won a championship in the early 30s, and the name of the team, the full name of the team, was Ed Bolden's Philadelphia Stars. So
I wonder if he was the owner or something like that.
You wonder?
All right, so a couple more questions here.
Okay.
Obviously, Olympics are over.
Yeah.
If you were to pick a sport, what would that sport be?
One that I would compete in?
Yes, you would compete.
Okay. I have absolutely no skill at this, but if I was going to try to find something where I thought, I could maybe be competitive as a 5'8" bad runner, maybe maybe like archery or something like that, where I can let the bow and arrow do the work for me.
Do the work for you. Just listen, I can't run. I'm not fast.
Exactly.
Let's just shoot this thing.
Yep. I remember all too well in high school being the guy who was finishing last in the relay races and whatnot. So it's I remember that feeling all too well to want to reprise that. So maybe something like archery.
Cool. It's actually the first time somebody said archery, so kudos to you.
Okay, good.
That. There you go. All right, and then last but not least here, pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
I'll support it. I'll support pineapple on pizza. I will. So listen, I'm not going to order pineapple on pizza,
What if
But
it's
I will
there?
support people's right to choose pineapple on pizza.
That's a very good politically correct answer. I like it. See, I just can't. I've tried it before. Don't get me wrong. I love pineapple. Pineapple is
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
fruit. I just
Yeah.
can't have it on my pizza. I'm more of a, let's just have a little couple of vegetables, and
Yep.
then obviously pepperoni and stuff. I can't.
I mean, in general, I don't really like mixing sweet and savory, right? Like, I'm not going to put like cranberry sauce and gravy on my turkey, right? Like, so,
yeah.
So in general, if the question is, would I order it? No. But, I'm not going to advocate for it to be stricken from menus.
Listen, everybody has their own, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. That's
Exactly.
just how that goes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, where can on your social media accounts, where can people find you?
Well, pretty much the only thing I'm doing on social media right now is Twitter. The handle is count and then the number 2 and then baseball. And that is because 11 or 12 years ago, this Twitter handle was meant to just be sort of a companion to a Facebook page that I set up that was called Countdown to Spring Training, which has literally 10 times more followers than my Twitter account has, and which I never use. Because all I do on that Facebook page is during the off season, I post a picture of a player whose number corresponds with the number of days until the baseball season starts or till spring training starts.
That's great, though.
When I set up, it's amazing. It's a like total lesson in social media. Like, do something stupid that takes 10 seconds that is incredibly easy to share, and that's your thing, right? Like, that's the thing that people will share. Spend a lot of time on a long message that you've poured your heart and soul into. And it's like your parents and maybe a couple of friends might like it, but that's it.
That's about it, right?
So yeah. So the actual name of the account that I use now is Baseball and Ice Cream, and that's because I'm just always my only request on Twitter is that if someone takes a picture of a helmet Sunday at a baseball game, tag me and I'll retweet it.
Nothing wrong with that, because that's
right.
We discussed, scientifically proven that ice cream tastes better out of a helmet.
Right. And there's nothing more beautiful than a photo of a helmet Sunday at a baseball game.
Correct. Love it. All right. Well, I want to thank you for doing this. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and then we'll keep messaging each other and see what the future holds for the both of us. Right.
Ed, you're a total hero. I had such a blast talking to you. I knew I would, and I did, and I can't wait. I can't wait to re-listen to this. I'm that guy. I'll go back and I'll re-listen to this conversation. And, it's super cool what you're doing. I love that you've launched this podcast. That's something I've always wanted to do and never been brave enough to do it. So it's cool that you're doing it, and I'm enjoying all the ways I get to follow you out there on the world.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And
all right, guys.
we'll share a Helmet Sunday in person one of these days.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
Heck yeah. Absolutely.
In Akron or
whichever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the country,
Toledo.
we'll do it. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Columbus, one of those places.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I know I did. Paul's a good dude. I mean, how can you not like the guy who loves the logos of the minor leagues, right? I mean, seriously. Make sure you get his book. It's on Amazon Prime and all of that. I'll put the link so that way you guys can also take a look at it. He also sells some t-shirts and cool logos. So, all right, make sure you support, all right? You gotta support small businesses, guys. Also, if you are interested in just the audio version of the podcast, make sure that you go on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. It's all there, okay? Make sure that you give it 5 stars so that way go up on the rankings, okay? Until then, keep on grinding and always make sure to support the minor leagues, guys. See ya.